Hello and welcome to this edition of the Chlo Grow. So obviously with the previous videos, what we've done is we've done like a monthly update, but you might have noticed this hasn't actually been a month since the last one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do a bit of a kind of information video. So hopefully you might find this useful. Obviously it's coming from, some of it's come from my own experience, some of it's come from research and stuff like that, but what we're doing with this one is how to be trans before transition. So what do I mean with that? So, it might be the case that you actually realise that you are trans, but you might not be in a position to actually be openly trans, so be socially transitioned, medically transitioned, things like that. So I wanted to do a little bit of a video just to think about things that perhaps you can think about doing in the meantime while you're figuring things out. Because, things are complicated. You might have family life to think about. You've probably got things like work to think about. There's all sorts of things that, complicate things. But there are things that you can do in the meantime. So I'm going to give you some of my tips for that. So tip number one would be have a think. Now that's a bit of a very vague description, admittedly, but have a think about it in terms of things that you might want to go and achieve. What's your end goal look like to you? Now that doesn't mean that whatever you decide today is going to be whatever you're going to feel like in a year, 5, 10 years times, whatever like that. But just have a bit of a think about it. And the reason I say that is because some aspects of transition can take a bit of time. It can take some working out. There might be steps that you need to think about. So you might take no steps. You might decide, well, actually, I'm just a woman, and that's the end of it, and everyone can deal with it. But if you're going to go and socially transition, you might think about it in terms of if you're going to medically transition, what do you need to do for that? If it's social transitioning, so things like you might decide to change your name and things like that. So you might be things that you need to think about in that. And I think actually initially having a bit of time just thinking about what it is that you want to achieve, and then you can actually plan for that. So step 2. So do your research, I suppose. So if you're thinking of doing anything other than just being just saying you're female, but if you're thinking about in terms of the social transition or medical transition, what steps would you need to take to do those? It might rule some things in, it might rule some things out, but do the research. And that's not just look at videos on YouTube perhaps, but there are plenty of good websites out there. So in terms of different aspects of trans life, in terms of what you need to do if you were going to do things medically, and things just do socially. And also with that, make sure that the information is relevant to where you are. So obviously there'll be plenty of information from certain countries, so places like here in the UK or in the States and stuff, there's probably plenty of information, but you want to make sure that what you're reading is relevant to you in your situation. So that's number 2. Number 3, if you're thinking about doing things medically, have a chat with your GP or your doctor. That's particularly important, especially here in the UK, I would say, because obviously it will vary depending on where you are. But if you're in the UK and you want to transition medically and you want to do it certainly on the NHS, that's a long process. And what you will need to do is you will more than likely need to get a referral from your GP. Now, some GPs might not be actually okay with doing that. So if that's the case, then you probably want to know early on so that you can actually go and approach another GP, get registered someone who's a bit more reasonable. But as I say, it will take time. So they will do the referral and then there will be a wait. So, if you're thinking about medically transitioning, I'd go and get that step done, even if later down the line you think, actually, I don't need to do that now. I'm fine as I am, and you don't want to do that. That's absolutely fine. That you can always go and cancel it later on, but you'll be talking about quite a few years for most likely to get seen on the NHS for that initial appointment with your gender identity clinic. So there is that. So have a look into that. The next step I'd probably suggest is, are you considering to change your name? If so, then that's something you can start to think about. What would be a good name for you? So, you can look at things like baby names. You can look at common names that are out there. Popular names and stuff. So you can always do some research onto things like that. Now, obviously, if you're transitioning and you're not socially transitioning yet, but you actually might want to change some things over, you could always consider some of the accounts that you have. So, like in the UK, you've got things like you might have a Tesco club card, for example. Me personally, that was the first thing I ever got changed over. Was I got my club card changed over, because actually you can do that. You don't need any documents to change that over. You'll find that there's obviously a number of things where you will need to have to change your name legally before you can change it. So things like your passport and your driving license and things like that. You will need to go and do that with a legal document, but there's plenty of stuff that you don't. So, if you're thinking of changing your name, so I changed my name. I got my Tesco Club card changed. All those sort of shopping accounts you can change. And I'd probably, with that, is start to look at your paperwork. Have a look at, well, if you're going to change your name, where would you need to change it to? Start making a list of it. If you're like me and love spreadsheets, then you'll do a spreadsheet of it, and you can write down, every time you change something, you can actually go and put you've changed it. It's good to keep a record, because you lose track after a while. And if you want to go and do medical transition and that, you need to be able to sort of show that you're serious about it. So I've got a list, I've got a spreadsheet, and it says this was the company, this is what was changed over, so name, pronouns, etc. And that was when it was changed. So I've got that for future reference. So the next thing we'll talk about will be hair. So one of the things you can look to do is you can look to grey your hair out if you want to. There's nothing at all to say that being a female you have to have long hair, so you can have shorter hair. I'd say I haven't had mine cut short since probably in about 5-6 years at this stage, so it's grown quite a bit in that time. It was quite short before. So do spend some, if you want to grow your hair out longer, you can do. I'd probably say this as well, is start to look after your hair. So get a good shampoo and conditioner if you can afford that. Treat your hair properly. So properly look after it, properly wash it with the right things, and that will make a world of difference as well. So I think I think women probably look after their hair a bit more than men do. So set time aside for that. So the next thing we'll talk about will be hair. So one of the things you can look to do is you can look to grey your hair out if you want to. There's nothing at all to say that being a female you have to have long hair, so you can have shorter hair. I'd say I haven't had mine cut short since probably in about 5-6 years at this stage, so it's grown quite a bit in that time. It was quite short before. So, do spend some, if you want to grow your hair out longer, you can do. Um, I'd probably say this as well is, start to look after your hair. So, get a good shampoo and conditioner if you can afford that. Treat your hair properly. So, properly look after it, properly wash it with the right things. And that will make a world of difference as well. So I think, I think women probably look after their hair a bit more than men do. So, set time aside for that. So, hair removal. That's one of the things you can start early if you want to do that. So, it might be that actually you don't want to do that at all, and that's absolutely fine. No problem with that whatsoever. But if it is something you are considering doing, then it is something you can start doing early. So, personally, obviously, I have, as I've mentioned in previous ones, I have laser treatment on my face. So that's something you can do without actually having started the other social transitioning. I'd say certainly with the salon that I go to, they are very trans friendly. So it's not, you're not going to get funny looks if you go into there, and to get that done at all, they're absolutely, they're going to be absolutely fine. Obviously, with the laser, it is expensive. So I pay £150 a month for my face. But I think you might be able to get special deals and stuff like that if you book more than one session and stuff like that at a time. You could probably get a discount. But it is something you can get done in the background. So the fact that you've decided to stay clean shaven, that doesn't have to be a sign that you are trans at all. So that is something that you can look to do. Definitely look to do. And as I say, it is a long process. So if you're looking at, it's been had about 10 sessions on mine so far. So it is a long process. It will take many months. So it is something you can start early before you start to think about other steps that you might want to take. So this is one of the other things that perhaps you might want to consider doing, and that is actually to do with voice training. Now there are plenty of YouTube videos about how to do basic voice training, so maybe that's something you might want to start as well. Obviously it's something that I still need to do a lot of work on, and it's one of the reasons why I do these videos, because I know that I have to do this work, and I'm trying to translate some of that work into doing these videos. So I'm helping you, I'm also helping myself as well. So so that's something you can try to do as well. It, like anything, it's going to take a long time for you to master that potentially. So it's something you can start off early. It's something you can start off in the comfort of your own home. And other people don't need to know that that's what you're doing, unless of course you post it on YouTube like this. But other people don't necessarily need to know. So that is something you can consider doing well in advance. Also, one of the things that you might want to consider is to do with therapy. Now, I don't undertake therapy at the moment, but if you are looking to do transition, certainly if you're going to look to do anything that's medical, in most cases you will need to go through and have some kind of therapy. And so, in order to get the surgery, you will need to have a proper diagnosis to say that actually you have gender dysphoria or something along those lines, to get that. So it can help to have that conversation earlier on. Obviously, what you want to do is to make sure that if you're going to go to the therapist, make sure that it's someone who's has got background in terms of dealing with these kind of things. So obviously, you want to have a trans-friendly therapist, so someone who's got some experience of working with people who are transgender, preferably as well. So obviously that can help as well. It can also help you certainly in the early days, because obviously at the beginning a lot of people won't necessarily know that you're trans. So obviously if you can go and get that additional support, that can be really helpful. It can really help in terms of getting you up and going. Equally, I'd say, if there are people who you can fully trust, it's worth having a conversation with them as well early on. So personally, I had a conversation with my sister, I had a conversation with my best friend, and I had a conversation with my girlfriend, who were people that I knew I could trust with that information. I knew they weren't going to judge. Now, obviously, not everyone will be as fortunate as I am to have that, but if there are people like that, it's good to get them on side early on, because they'll obviously have different pieces of advice and stuff that they can give you, and they can help you along your journey as well. Because if you've got somebody who can do it alongside, it's better than them doing it by yourself. You might also find that in your local, your doctor's surgery or your employer, they might have people that you can go and speak to. They might have some kind of support groups. You might also find that certainly if you going down the sort of gender identity clinic kind of route, that there will be often a support group that's attached to that. So you can get involved with some of that. And I know that certainly in this area where I am, the gender identity clinic have had sessions where you can go and do different bits. So usually at the moment it's around sort of been around voice training, but that's a good opportunity to meet other trans people as well, because it will enable you to talk through your story and hear the stories of others, and you'll see that actually you're not on your own, and there are others out there that can give you a hand. So that's really it from this video. I hope you found it useful. If you have, please do subscribe, and we'll obviously be posting more videos of this like these. The next video will be the monthly update one that we do normally, but the plan is to do more of these informational videos, so just talking a little bit about different aspects of being trans and things that you can do, and also me practicing my voice skills. So I hope you've enjoyed it, and we'll hope you'll join again next time. But in the meantime, it's Chloe saying goodbye everyone. Have a great day. Bye.